The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of Planted with Sara Payan. I'm Sara Payan, your host, and today we have a really special episode. I'd like to start it out by just reading off a definition of a word, and that word is transition. Transition is a noun. The definition is the process or period of changing from one state or condition to another. And as a verb, to undergo or cause to undergo a process or period of transition. And transition is what we're going to talk about today. Transition and cannabis. I feel really lucky to be sharing this recording today with one of my dear friends and colleagues, Emerson Palmer. Emerson and I worked for years together at the Apothecarium in San Francisco, working with patients with critical and chronic illnesses, helping them find relief. And I couldn't ask for a better partner in this work than Em. He has so much compassion, just very knowledgeable, and I was very honored to know him during a time of transition. And that's literal transition, because when Emerson and I first started working together, he was Emily, or as we called him, Emmy. And as we worked together, he was working with cannabis to help him with his transition. And I felt honored to be able to have conversations with him and to have him share his experiences and knowledge. And so today, we're going to have conversations about this. And with the way the world is now, where more people are feeling comfortable in their own skin, or comfortable, I should say, enough to realize who they are and where they need to be, this conversation is a really important one, because we have more people coming into their own, and cannabis can be a really great tool for helping with that transition. So Emerson, welcome so much to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really been it's an honor to have been asked. And like you were saying, I do think that now would be and is the great time for us to be talking about, cannabis and how helpful it can be for those who are going through hormone replacement therapy, or, as we know it, as transitioning.
So going back to when you made the decision, how did that come about, the decision to transition?
Well, like you said earlier, we worked together many years before I decided to transition. I was Emily before I, found my name to be Emerson. And luckily, we worked at the Apothecarium in San Francisco and the Castro location, which was the original location. So we were really just immersed in the LGBTQ community, and a lot of our clients, luckily for me at the time, were, different, a different variety of, the queer community that surrounded us. So it kind of allowed me to be more open to who I was kind of finding myself out to be. And through our different colleagues and connections of, we had colleagues who were non-binary, and different people who did identify or had friends who did. So for me, I was able to kind of branch out and be a little bit more happy and secure in myself to kind of explore that. And so actually through our own job and our health benefits and stuff from Apothecarium, I was able to get counseling, and I was able to find a transitional doctor, and I was very in a safe and secure place to be able to come out, as Emerson to our colleagues. And I was really lucky to be welcomed. And, everybody, we changed my name tag and everything. It was a very great place to kind of open myself up and start that journey. And I knew that cannabis would very much help me and play a huge role in, that transitional period with what I would have to start undergoing in terms of taking testosterone and later on going through my surgery.
So what instance was the first time you realized how much cannabis was going to help you with your journey?
Well, I did do, yeah, so before starting to take testosterone, I did do some research in terms of how, changing the different hormones that interplay with your body, how that could, affect you, emotionally and physically. What I did find through the first few months of taking testosterone was a difference in I guess I could say my emotional receptivity, and that being how my emotions affected me physically. My emotions started to become a little bit more physical in terms of maybe if I was anxious or upset, I would feel a little more shaky, or my heart would be a little more racy than how I used to feel prior to transitioning, or taking testosterone, I should say. So with that, it was an interesting balance of learning my body again and learning how emotions and my body connected. I felt that cannabis has always been like a source or a medicine for me that helps with my anxiety in general. So for me, in those instances where I can tell that my testosterone possibly was interplaying in how much my body was reacting, cannabis started, for me, becoming some type of helpful source to relax those types of tendencies. So as I progressed in my transition, I started finding I started finding patterns in when I took my shot and when my emotions kind of started feeling overwhelming. And I started researching these patterns, and I started realizing that there is something called a trough period when it comes to taking hormones. And that trough period to me was a lot like when I used to get my period and I had kind of PMS states. They're pretty much equivalent to each other. Because my period essentially stopped at 7 months on testosterone. So before that, as a woman, I did understand my cycle, and I did understand how my hormones played a part in how my emotions were during that cycle. And I started seeing similarities with that and my testosterone cycle from when I took my shot. So much like how I used cannabis during my menstrual cycle, I started experimenting with myself on using cannabis during those testosterone, like low testosterone phases. And I realized that it really does help exactly the same way as it used to help me during my menstrual cycle. And in that way, meaning it really helps with the fatigue my body experiences. It helps with the irritability and the anxiety. And it helps with my overall mental well-being. And that is currently how I've been using the cannabis for my transition.
Do you find that both CBD and THC have a place in it? And where do you find that these cannabinoids are the most effective when you're going through your peaks and flows with your hormones?
Sure. I definitely do feel that CBD could be definitely utilized medicinally as well, interchangeably. It depends on, how people feel comfortable enough with the THC intake. Obviously, if somebody did not feel comfortable or was just starting out, I would highly recommend some type of 8-to-1 or 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 type ratio of CBD to THC. mainly because I feel like that helps a lot with the anxiety, and could be helpful during any phase of the cycle. And it could help somebody just be a little more introduced into taking that small amount of THC, as like an introductory thing. But for me, the CBD has helped, like I said, with overall anxiety. And sometimes when I did go through my top surgery, I did utilize CBD a lot for the pain management. So if somebody were to be going through any type of surgery or post-operative care, they could then utilize that CBD for that pain management and the anxiety that may come with the after effects of going through something like a surgery. I've also utilized CBN in the past for sleep. There have been times where, like after surgery, I wasn't able to sleep for some amount of time just due to discomfort, but also just after having long periods of not being able to sleep or something due to anxiety or pressures of wherever, that CBN could be helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. I know that you've always been really in touch with what's going on with your body. A lot of times when I teach classes, especially to people who are new to cannabis, I talk a lot about journaling and tracking, how you feel. Do you think that, I know that would be a good tool for people who are using it as they're going through, they're transitioning their hormone therapy, but do you feel like journaling has another place just in the whole process of seeing what's going on with you and just kind of getting more in touch with your body? And, we're walking chemistry experiments to begin with, but just to kind of see how the therapies manifest in the body, what would you recommend around that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, journaling would be such a great tool to utilize. Oftentimes we forget about, certain days that go by or how we were feeling exactly. And I think I've utilized journaling even on days where there's nothing even to write. I think that is such a great source for us to look back on. And like I said, create those patterns or realize those patterns that we may go through, whether it be emotionally or physically. And I think that would be a great idea in order to figure out what you're going through, because especially when it comes to transitioning, it's not just an inner change. It's a huge outer change. Your outer worlds are going to be completely changed as well, like your relationships, your work, even the way you fit into clothes, or everything is going to be different. So it's something that is overwhelming, and it's valid to feel overwhelmed. So I think that it's important for people to, be sensitive to themselves and be soft and kind to themselves. And journaling is a great way to reconnect with your inner self and rechecking in on how the outer self is affecting you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When we've spoken about this in the past, I've always been just in awe of really how much change is all encompassing when you go through a process like this. Like when we were talking about just like how emotions manifest in the body, and a lot of times those of us who are cisgendered, we talk about the differences between men and women, but we don't really understand it because we can't be in that other person's body. Whereas I just think it's such a gift that you've been able to experience emotions manifesting in your body as a female, and then now seeing those changes, how they manifest as a male.
Yes. And, I've always said that it really did take me, being a woman to be a great man, because it really, for perspective, I lived myself as a female for, about 26 years. So it was a full life. And with that type of perspective, you gain more of a respect and more of a understanding of where all people are coming from. And it feels more like a privilege to be in this position, to be able to have a voice that is often not heard, and making it important, So that is now my goal, is to make our voice very, important and heard, because these things are important to listen to. And when it comes to cannabis, and the beauty of it is that, like, it really does benefit and help you connect to yourself and connect to others. And it helps your body at the same time, and it can help, really change people's lives. And for me, it has helped change my life in so many different ways, but it has helped me above all, like, really connect to myself again. And through this process, it has helped me, like, regain my balance and my ability to keep going. So that's why it's really important to have these types of conversations,
Yeah, and having conversations about the different ways of using cannabis, I think, is extraordinarily helpful. Like, I remember you did a really interesting thing one day that we had talked about, using a transdermal patch on. I remember you cutting a strip off of it because they weren't encapsulated, so you could adjust dosage, and putting it on your wrist and explaining to me, like, how that was helping modulate mood for you.
Totally.
And what different ways have you used cannabis, as far as, like, the ways of utilization, and what ways do you find it appropriate at what times for yourself personally? What's been really helpful?
Sure. So in terms of, like, those patches, I did and do really enjoy the discreetness of those, as well as the effectivity of how long they last. So, for example, something like that patch could possibly have 10 milligrams of THC in that one patch. Well, I don't personally need 10 milligrams right away. And on a trough day, meaning, a day where my testosterone level, I know, is at its lowest, and I'm possibly, like, the most irritable or the most, sensitive, I do like to microdose THC, because I do think that it benefits my mind, excuse me, and my emotional stability. So about 2 milligrams to 5 milligrams throughout the day really does help keep me at a balanced state. So for something like those patches, they're perfect for me, because I can have one full patch, and I can, cut it into 4 or 5 little slivers, and then I'll have that on my arm for a few hours a day. And, it really it helps me just kind of stay less irritable, I've noticed, and so there's also been other things that I utilize it for, would be, well, I obviously I do smoke, but there's not always a time and place for that. So that's usually for something like before I go to bed, mainly because for me that kind of initiates a lot quicker, and I'm just kind of trying to go right to sleep. So that's helpful for me. I also enjoy microdosing for the same reason, for mood balance. Edibles throughout the day, I found, different capsules or different gummies, different things like that are really helpful for me, especially on days when I'm going to be at work or outside, or, in a social scene for extended periods of time. And I know that my hormone levels are low, or I'm feeling a little bit more fatigued due to that. I will then utilize that microdosing again. Something I've used for post-operative care that I found extremely helpful are the balms. So you know how they have THC and CBD balms. I utilize a 1-to-1 ratio because I do feel like it helps with the inflammation and the redness and the scarring in general. I don't have as much scarring or redness, and I do feel like that has a lot to do with utilizing those compounds essentially like about a month after surgery and onward, and it has helped in that way as well.
Mm-hmm. And you've been documenting your process throughout. How many years has it been now?
In March it'll be 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Jeez, that is crazy. It seems like it's been a long time, and yet it seems like it was just yesterday when you were first having the conversations.
Right, and it is very wild. You know, I still wake up every morning and I'm looking in a mirror and I can't believe, what I'm seeing. It is literally like living another lifetime within a lifetime.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's great.
It's wonderful.
It's really cool.
Yeah, every time I see you put something up, which listeners, by the way, if you want to check out Emerson's journey, he has amazing pictures and videos on Instagram about the process. And how many followers do you have now? You've got a lot.
I don't know.
I think you've got I think you have like over 25,000 followers that have followed you through this journey.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and grateful to have, an ability to and a platform to outreach to, queer youth and trans youth. And I really, I'd like to make myself out there to help mentor, anybody. So anyone is more than welcome to, ask for advice or just even go to my page to, find somebody that they can relate to. Because, growing up, there wasn't really many trans, people to look up to or to relate to at all, in media or anywhere. There wasn't anyone I could really, look at and be like, you know what, I'm just like him, I could be like that or something, So it's, my goal, and I feel like my generation's goal to be that outlet for, the youth. And it is really important to nurture that youth because we aren't really understood completely yet in our, society, unfortunately. So we all have to kind of stick together in that way.
Yeah, well, I think one of the many things that I've always appreciated about you is just your drive to hold space for others and educate them. And even like with your social media presence, you're not a typical influencer. It seems like it happened almost organically because you're always so modest about everything that you do, which, it's like you always come from such a good place.
Thank you.
Well, it's one of the many reasons I love you.
Yes, likewise. We're all in it together,
Yeah, well, and we had talked in the past about just how important it is to help people on their journeys and to have this information, and just to have somebody like you who's been there, who is able to hold space and be able to compassionately communicate information that people need and to give them the support to be who it is that they need to be is just, it's amazing and incredibly valuable. And with the world the way it is, we need more love and support than ever before.
Definitely. Yes, I agree to that. And especially for our, queer community and youth, cannabis and culture and queer culture are really one and the same. It's all about family. It's about coming together and helping one another. And if we can all just maintain and see that we are all interrelated like that, it'll be a lot more beneficial, and we'll be able to spread the word even more so than we could have before.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things. I feel really lucky that we started out in the Castro flagship store, or the mothership, as I like to call
Definitely.
it,
Yeah.
of the apothecarium, because it's really like with a lot of, as cannabis has boomed and cannabis culture shifts and there's lots of different areas of it, I always go back to the fact that, cannabis has really deep historical queer roots, and it's very
Hmm.
LGBTQ focused. And so,
Totally.
to be able to help, our I used to say brothers and sisters, but siblings on this
Hmm.
journey,
Totally.
you
Totally.
know,
Yeah.
um, and just really like, with all the information that you're giving, also just really impress upon everybody that we're all so different with how we metabolize cannabis. And
Right.
with what you're saying, like, to take that as a foundation, but really journal. Slow and low is the way to go. We're all so different. And really, like, the levels of hormones in our body really determine how we react to the cannabinoids. Um,
Right.
I do.
And just to say, I was also very open to my doctors along the way as to my intake of cannabis. I don't know and can say that all doctors and would be, supportive of those things. But for me, it was very important to be, very upfront with my beliefs on cannabis and how it has helped me, emotionally. And luckily, I was supported in that. But to still maintain, as I do, if you're going to be active in that lifestyle, to also maintain your doctor visits as regularly as you're supposed to through your hormone replacement treatment, because that is still very important to make a priority for your health. Because, like Sarah said, we don't know, everybody's body is completely different, and you want to be as in tune with your body throughout your transition, outwardly, but also just technically, get your blood levels checked, and, always have a good rapport with your your doctors and the people around you. And luckily, there are lots of resources that if you don't have that, in where you live or in your doctor group, that online, or if you wanted to reach out to me, there are different resources out there that there are trans-friendly doctors that are happy to help you.
Do you feel like your doctors learned a lot from the conversations you had about your cannabis use?
I do, yes. And, luckily, I really wanted to come at it with not a, in your face type stance, but more of just factual. And I was met with, yes, understanding and openness. Because, like I've said, I have benefited so greatly emotionally with my cannabis use and my transitioning. And I have really thought about it and really checked in with myself a lot and have noticed the benefits. So to me, the doctors were pretty receptive. Obviously, there are different rules in terms of when you're going into surgeries and such that should be kind of respected, because you don't want your healing process to somewhat be messed up in any way. So I did respect different um, suggestions when it came to like smoking and such after uh, surgeries. But other than that, in terms of edible intake or tinctures or using the balms, for the most part, I was received well, yes.
That's awesome. I really feel like when we have conversations with our physicians, it helps them help other people. Of course, we do live in a bubble, living in California, so not everybody
Correct.
is lucky to have the access, or to have physicians as open about it because of how laws are. But
Right.
if you can, It's a good conversation to have in the areas where we can legally discuss it with our physicians. Not they still can't they still can't do prescriptions no matter where we are, but they can, places where we feel we can trust our doctors to have the conversation without there being legal repercussions. I think it's super important.
Yeah, I agree, and that is part of why I did choose to bring it up to those doctors at the time, is because they aren't going to know unless we give them the firsthand type of experience and knowledge to say so. So to me, it is important to give them those just random information bits about your experience, because it could help them later on if those conversations come up between other physicians, or between, if they're at a lecture or something and they want to, input on one of their patients. So it could be very beneficial to us in the future.
We've talked about hormone troughing. We've talked about anxiety. What are other things, other symptoms or experiences that people may go through as they're going through hormone therapy?
Well, there are definite, physical changes, facial hair and hair in general. For me, there's lowering of my voice. When we first met, my voice was like way up high, and now it's kind of.
I don't even remember your old voice anymore.
Yeah, and then pretty much my weight distribution or fat distribution has changed. My ability to gain more muscle has changed. So all of those main physical changes happen. But again, everybody's body is different, and their bodies are different in terms of receptivity. So different things will happen to different people. I'm starting to lose my hair, so it's different things. But a lot of it for me, in terms of, obviously that type of stuff is so life-changing when I'm able to look in the mirror and see somebody that I recognize, or somebody that I really connect to, is mind-blowing to me and completely life-changing on a day-to-day basis. For me, though, what was the most different was all of the emotional changes that come with all the other changes, I guess you can say, and that is in terms of relationships and, the world around you, and how the world around you responds to you. Excuse me. That was probably the most eye-opening of it all for me, because I feel the greatest I've ever felt now. It was very interesting to see how the world around you changes when you choose to transition,
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about just the perception and respect you get, well, the respect that you get with your identity being male now. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, like I said, I lived my whole life, up to 26 years or so as a female. And at age 16, I came out as lesbian. So I was for about 10 years in that realm of society. And with that experience, I obviously experienced, sexism. I experienced a lot of, feeling or being put down, or, pushed aside, or kind of not heard or not listened to completely. And then as I started transitioning, it was interesting, and not something I was going for, or something that I was part of why I wanted to transition, but just an observation as I began more passing as male. So as my voice started, getting lower, and, my face structure was kind of, chiseling out, and my facial hair started growing in, I started seeing a huge shift and an adjustment in how people in my day-to-day in society treated me as a passing male, and it was completely different. It's very respectful. People like look me in the eye very, almost like you are able to see the privilege that happens for the male, and you only can really see it when you live your life not experiencing it prior, and then out of nowhere you're looking like a male and like passing as one, and then it becomes very present. And to me that was very eye-opening, and how obvious it is now to me that exists and that privilege really does exist, and how not that I didn't feel it before, but when you are able to experience it firsthand, it is pretty disheartening to realize that about society, and that you want to make it and change it into an ability, or I want to be more, since I am passing that way, then I need to be the one that changes and adjusts how we act in the outer world. And I want to be, an example to, help others see that and adjust that, and like obviously try to make it right again, because it's a very interesting experience to go through, to be able to have that illustrated in front of you, just due to the way that your body and your outward appearance has adjusted.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you use your powers for good.
Right.
Yeah, what a gift. I remember once we were even talking about how the difference, and let me know if you're okay talking about this, but
Sure.
how anger even manifests differently in your body as a man.
Oh yeah, and that goes back to how physical things became or started to become. The hands shaking and the heart racing feeling I had experienced before, but it felt more, like the volume was turned up on like a stereo feeling, and that for me it just was relearning how to cope with my feelings. And I think I realized a lot of it had to do with not ever really getting down to the bottom of my what upset me, or getting down to the bottom of my triggers. So possibly triggers from before, years before were coming up, and now I have testosterone, running through me and things, and possibly it made it feel a little bit more overwhelming when it was really just needing to uncover the truth behind what I was actually feeling. So it did help me uncover more truths about myself. It helped me really dig deep into like what makes me upset, or what has made me upset in the past. And moving forward, it has helped me really recognize those different random, not triggers, but random signs and signals that my body is trying to give me to, show me that, something is off, or show me that, I might have been triggered by something that has gotten me a physical reaction.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned before that some of your, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd
Sure.
mentioned that with some emotions, whereas before, as a female, it was much more, like, I remember you telling me once that when you used to get angry as a woman, even if you weren't sad, you'd have tearing up in your eyes, whereas as a man, it's more physical. It manifests more physically in your body.
Totally. Yeah. And I think in my female body and self, I was able to really understand what had upset me, or I could go back and pinpoint where somebody hurt my feelings, or I could very quickly, know why I was upset and be upset. Whereas once starting to transition and start the hormone therapy, I would just I would start having a physical reaction, like the heart or starting to get like upset or something. And I couldn't pinpoint why or where I was upset at unless I had the physical reaction first. So it'd be physical. And then after that, I would be like, oh, okay, I must have been upset because of this, this, and that. So that was really the challenge for me through the beginning stages of the transition and taking testosterone, was really refinding that balance again and refinding that connection between the physical and the emotional. Like, why was I feeling that heart racy? Why was I feeling my hands shaky? What emotion brought that before it started happening? And it did take, a number of months, if not years, to really find that emergence again. And now at this point, I feel like I'm able to, I'm connected enough to my body and my mind that if my heart starts pounding or my hands are like, racy, I can, within those moments, talk to myself and figure out what exactly hurt me at that time. But it did take, the journaling, the over observance of myself, really watching these patterns and these like cycles and trying to figure out how I can balance them and become a part of them so that, we're kind of flowing through all the emotions as they come and go.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that when you were first learning how to work with this, that using cannabis as a tool was a helpful thing?
Definitely. I think that, it helped not only with just the physicality of it all, in terms of just the calming of the nerves and the tension and that comes with anxieties, but it really did allow me that time to be very introspective and be the observer of myself and really, tap into that and question myself and, kind of have like a dialogue with myself. I do think that cannabis, even historically and throughout ancient times, has been a tool and a vehicle to help, oneself meet yourself and have those really deep talks that bring you to a higher understanding of who you are and who you want to be. So I 100% think that cannabis has played and continues to play a big role in my ability to connect with those parts of myself and be there, for myself.
Yeah. I think it's also important to talk about just the biphasic qualities of cannabis and, the mindfulness around use, because, when you're able to use it mindfully, it's an amazing tool to create balance in our bodies. But when we're not as attached or we're not as in tune with, what's going on with our bodies and our usage, we can go in the other direction. And it's really important to be mindful of that, because we don't want it to be where we're avoiding our emotions or what we're going through, but more so to be able to process, right?
Right. Yeah. And like go into it with that mind state, like you're saying, if that is where you're going to, well, then your journal could be in front of you while you're doing that. Or, for me, it's like I'm going to, hit this bowl or something and then go on a walk outside to really, clear my mind and get back to nature, or I'm going to go to the beach and draw or something. With those types of activities set in stone while you are, medicating or for after, I think that is a great tool to be able to use it for,
Mm-hmm. What resources would you recommend for people who are looking for support or information on hormone therapy and just the process people go through?
Well, for us in California, there luckily is, I think, a good amount of LGBTQ resources, but I do think that that people should probably look through. What I went through is Kaiser in San Francisco. They actually have a great program that has a whole bunch of resources, whether you have Kaiser insurance or not, for either transitioning or gender reassignment type surgeries, or just, support groups. And I think that would be a great resource to utilize. Also, there is for me, I really did utilize social media is through Instagram for a lot of my questions. And it does sound silly, but within our generation and the younger generations, we do use and utilize those platforms as like a community. And there is a huge trans community on Instagram that is very close-knit, and that's why I do, suggest and tell anybody that they can all, hit me up on Instagram, because I'm more than happy to be there as a resource and possibly help you find, whether it be in another state or something, resources for you.
Yeah, I just was pulling up your Instagram here. So everyone, if you want to follow Emerson, it's Palmer, PALMER _ FIVE, V as in Victor, I on Instagram. And I was wrong. You don't have 25,000, but you've got 21.2, which is pretty darn close. And you just had, was it a year or two ago, you had the My Trans Life video that came out too?
Yes, yeah. It was a short documentary showcasing of my family and I. That's me as a trans father, and then my partner Blue, who is a non-binary mother, and then our kid, who's a non-binary little one, 8-year-old. Their name is Air. So they just kind of followed us around, and we talked about, raising our child non-binary, and how important it is to not place, gender norms and stereotypes and, on children as they grow up, and how detrimental that could be for their well-being as they get older, and how important it is to, honor and support your child and however they want to express themselves on whatever road and path they want to go down. So that video is just a short little stint and a little glimpse in the day in the lives of me and my family.
I saw that you have the link for that on your bio on Instagram too.
Yeah.
That's cool. You guys are such a beautiful family.
Thank you so much.
I was just looking at the pictures.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
like,
very
oh my
grateful.
God. Yeah.
Super blessed.
It's wonderful.
Dream comes true, really. Yeah,
well, and I think some of the unrest we have in the world is people just not feeling comfortable in their own skin to be who it is that they need to be.
Yeah, no, totally. And not being surrounded by people who really honor and want that for them, I think that now is the time for us all to, as community, to just be there for each other and support each other in whatever you want to do and whatever makes you happy. And that's kind of what our goal is. And my goal is to just keep spreading that word.
Mm-hmm.
hope that people kind of all get on the ship and come sail with us, you know?
Yeah, because I think, people are unhappy with where they are and who they are. They tend to put judgment on other people and constraints on other people's lives. And, in this world, it's like we need more honesty and openness and love and just being true to ourselves, because then we honor other people and their choices, as long as, the biggest thing is that we're good to one another.
Definitely, yes. And all of our motives and intent is with love and like light. I think that a lot can happen with those, behind you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just really, I'm so looking forward to seeing you, doing more, having more conversations and putting out more support and education to the community, because we really need it. Your voice is so important and vital, especially for people who may not have the support that they need.
Totally.
To be
Yes.
seen.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me with you. I had like so much fun. And it is really important to, keep our voices heard. And like I said, I'm an open book and open resource for anybody who needs, somebody to talk to.
Well, thank you. So everyone, again, Emerson Palmer, educator and trans man extraordinaire.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people. Thank you, my brother. I really, really appreciate you being here. If anybody wants to get a hold of Emerson via Facebook, again, it's Palmer, PALMER _5 FIVEVI. V as in Victor, I. Thanks, Em. I hope that we're able to have future conversations on the podcast.
Yes, please.
Come back anytime,
Yes.
and anytime that you have something new that you want to share. But please, everyone, Emerson is an amazing resource. He's got a lot to share, and we're all just really working hard to make the world a better place. So join us next time. We're going to have an exciting guest next month as well. And in the meantime, be kind. Thank you.
Thank you.